Random tree here. Sorry for the bad quality of camera. I'm using a different camera for this. Sadly, my other camera doesn't want to work, even though it's the better camera. Anyways, we're on chapter 13. Look at us getting so far into this book. But it was in the hundreds, right? Chapter 13. Where is it? I wish you guys could read it with me. But sadly, bad camera quality means no, really blurry. Yes, really blurry. Anyways, before we start, I'd just like to mention that if you can't find the next episode to this, next chapter to this, or episode as I said, it probably is in the playlist. I have a playlist of this on my channel, so just look at my playlist if you want to see any of my other content. And that goes together because of YouTube doesn't like showing all my content that goes together, together. Anyways, let's get this done. Yay! Chapter 13 is on page 132. And this is A Snicker of Magic by Natalie Lloyd. So you're back at this again with this crap. Random tree here. Hi. Really all over the place. Sorry. Poets and Pappers. Pappers? Papers? Poets and Papers, Jonah said. He was glancing down at the words I'd just penciled in the blue book. Day Grayson's bus had dropped us off on Main Street at Dr. Zook's Creamery. That's a weird name. The only ice cream shop in the world that had all of Dr. Zook's 45 mysterious flavors. Jonah said Zook's has the most swankified. Okay. Swankified. That Jonah said Zook's was the most swankified place to get some work done. His beetlework consisted of one scheming up nice things to do for people, and two, helping me plan for the duel, which he was still convinced was my key to convincing Mama we should stay in Midnight Gulch. My work was to get inspired enough to write my poems for dueling today. Also, my work was figuring out how to deliver that talent without barfing all over the stage. That's why I brought you here, Jonah said, because ice cream is wholly inspirational. But I thought he meant wholly inspirational. So I said, ahem. And Jonah shrugged his shoulders and said, Hallelujah. I can't read! What am I doing? Why am I making these reading videos when I can't read? Oh well. Anyways. And he bought 2 pints of us to split. 2 pints for us to split. If I could read, that'd be great. Anyways. Poets and I'm just gonna say papers. It probably says puppers. Poppers? Peoples. Anyways. I nodded towards the window. I reached for the pint of Uncle Don's supreme key lime pie. Those are the words I see across the street at the pie shop. No way, Jonah's green eyes glittered sparkly wide. That's what that building used to be called way back before it was Ponder's Pie Shop. It was a pub called the Poet and Poppers. That's one of the oldest buildings in the whole state. Jonah leaned across the table towards me. He had a secret-telling look on his face, so I leaned in real close to listen. I liked keeping his secrets. You've met Ponder. Oh, who owns the pie shop? Well, she's kin to the Smiths, and the Smiths' magic had to do with cooking. How so? I took a last bit of key lime deliciousness and pushed the pint across the table to Jonah. Back during the Civil War, Jonah began, as he nudged his pint of Aaron's peach pecan across the table to me. Nancy Smith worked at that shop making spy pies. Soldiers would walk in there and tell Nancy certain secrets information, and somehow Nancy Smith could bake that information into the pie. There were no slips of paper, no number codes, no tangible pieces of evidence. It was the secret she baked in. Soldiers could taste those pies and know all sorts of important things. The whole war might have turned out differently if it hadn't been for Nancy Smith. Splendidly, I said. Jonah grinned as he leaned back in his seat. People claim Ponder's pies still have a snicker of magic. A snicker? That's magic left over, Jonah explained. Not good for much, not as fancy as it used to be, but enough to make it special. I leaned across the table and whispered, "Do you think your new know-how is a snicker of magic?" "Maybe," he shrugged, and then he cocked his head at me. "I think your word collecting is a snicker of magic." Collecting's not magic," I argued. "It's just a quirk, just how I am." Jonah twirled his pen through his fingers. The brothers Threadbare probably thought that way until the day they saw that their music did what their music did to people. How it made them dance, made them happy. In case you've forgotten, the brothers Threadbare wrecked this town. Not at first, Jonah countered. Oliver's story of the Threadbare curse had stuck with me. I'd written the word in my blue book, but I might as well have written them inside my head and inside my heart and in the air all around me, because I couldn't stop thinking about them, and I didn't know why. The brothers Threadbare were dead and gone. They had nothing to do with me, and anyways, the only magic I was interested in was the kind that would make Mama stay put. I'd give anything to find a snicker of magic like that. I looked back across the street at the words, "Poets and Poppers," still fluttering over Ponder's door. "Is there a snicker of magic in Ponder's pie?" Jonah shrugged his shoulders. "Maybe. She doesn't bake secret spy stuff anymore, of course, but they say her blackberry pie makes people fall in love, and their apple pie makes people feel brave. All I know for sure is that she makes pies that are splendidly delicious." "What does that guy do?" I pondered to the scrawny man dancing down the sidewalk across the street. Since Jonah and I had arrived at Dr. Zook's, I'd watched the man set up a huge radio near Ponder's pie shop. Then he plugged a microphone into the radio and now he was singing so loud and hard his face was red, explosive red. Does he have a snicker of magic? That's Elves Phyllis, Jonah said. He stands on Main Street and sings songs by Elvis Presley. No magic there. He figures since his name is Elvis, he's got a similar calling as the king. Is he crazy? I asked. Elvis Phillips closed his eyes and leaned back. Then he clenched his fist, kicked his scrawny leg out, and hollered the final lyric of Jailhouse Rock. He's no crazier than anybody else in Midnight Gulch, Jonah smiled. This duel's making me crazy. I looked down at the mostly empty page of my blue book. I could use a slice of brave apple pie, a gargantuan slice. Jonah asked me exactly how many poems I'd written for the duel, and I told him the truth, that I'd written exactly 0, zilch, nothing, nada. Felia, Jonah hollered. We have less than 1 week left. Exactly, I said. It'd be easier to break that stupid curse than compete in the duel. Jonah shook his head. Something good is going to happen at the duel. You said that already. Then start believing me. He leaned closer to me and whispered, Beetle intuition is always spot on. No matter how many words I write, they're still just words. Words aren't the same as talent. With a carton of ice cream in one hand and a spoon clenched tight in the other, Jonah looked as determined as I'd ever seen him. Your words are talent, and I'm going to help you see it. I'm grateful for all the way you're helping me, I sighed. But when the duel's over, it won't matter if I win or lose. It won't matter if I say something smart or stupid. In the end, I still have to leave. Jonah must have seen the panic in my face, because his voice drifted back to peaceful easy as he said, Don't worry about your poems yet. He reached across the table and turned to a blank page in the blue book. Just make a list of random facts. That'll get your pen moving and your imagination running. Jonah opened his newspaper and started circling and plotting and planning good deeds. I glanced all around me, trying to find some inspiration. I saw an old couple with matching sun visors. They were eating ice cream cones full of rainbow-colored scoops. I watched a girl with red hair hold a novel in one hand and a waffle cone in the other. She was mumbling the words of her story, so happy to be reading that she didn't notice the pink dollop of ice cream on her chin. I watched little kids stand on their tippy toes. Stand on their tippy toes and stare at all the bright flavors kept safe behind the glass. I wondered if any of those people had blue books, too. Did anybody else in the world see words the same way I did? Was word collecting a kind of magic, like singing at the clouds and baking spy pies? Maybe my words were only a snicker of magic. Maybe they were nothing, but they were still mine. I concentrated on my blue book again, I decided I might as well write about myself. The 5 most interesting facts about myself. I am Felicity Juniper Pickle. My first name stands for wondrous joy. My second name stands for coniferous plant. My third name is Pickle, and it stands for all my people behind me and ahead of me. That's a nice way to look at things. 2. I have a heart-shaped freckle under my right eye. Mama calls it a love bite. 3. I live in a town that used to be full of magic. I think there's still magic here. It's just been playing hide and seek for a very long time. This town is also full of sad stories and sweet people. I like it here. I want to stay forever. 4. My best friend's name is Jonah Pickett. He likes to split stuff with me. He splits granola bars and brownies and cans of Dr. Pepper and cartons of Dr. Zook's ice cream. He always lets me have the bigger half. I glanced across the table at Jonah. I looked back down at my book. I wrote, "He is splendiferous." 5. Because of Jonah Pickett, I signed up for the duel, even though 5A. I would still rather floss with barbed wire than participate. The only perk of my impending dueldom, I don't know what that means. Dueldom was spending more time with Jonah. Hanging out with my family was fabulous, but my time with Jonah was a different kind of wonderful. Jonah Pickett was like snow days, field trips, candy stores, and Christmas Eve all blended into one big swoosh of a feeling. "Felicity," Jonah drawled. My face tingled red because I realized I'd been staring at him for way too long. I shifted my eyes back to the blue book and cleared my throat. Yep. Oh my gosh. Does Felicity have a crush on Jonah? They're so cute together. I ship it. Anyways, back to the story. Is Boone staying at Chloe's apartment too? I nodded. Chloe says we're packed in tight as we're packed in tight as sardines. Me and Franny Joe and Biscuit sleep in the craft room. Mama sleeps on the couch. Uncle Booney sleeps in a sleeping bag in front of the laundry closet. Last night, Aunt Chloe forgot he was there, and she tripped and fell over him, and her lit cigarette caught the edge of his sleeping bag on fire. Cleo tried to beat out the fire with her house slipper. Well, Booney tried to wiggle out of the sleeping bag, but the zipper was stuck. I didn't know if it was the hollering or the smell of smoke that woke up Mama, but she got the fire extinguisher. Then she barreled down the hall, spraying the fire extinguisher like a wild woman. Ruined Chloe's carpet. Jonah laughed. We gotta figure out something really good to do for Chloe. He scribbled a few notes in the corner of the newspaper. Then he reached down into his backpack. I picked these up for your uncle. Jonah passed me a box of new banjo strings. Splendidly, I said. But how are you going to get them to him? Booney barely leaves the apartment. He's too sad over the Nashville's floozy. Jonah pulled a roll of red ribbon from his backpack and tossed that across the table, too. I figured you could do it. He smiled at me. Just write something clever on the box and sign it. Jonah mouthed the beetle. My heart felt heavy in a good way. Holding my steady in a moment, I needed to be sure and remember. I leaned across the table and whispered, I get to be Pumpernickel? Is that all right? I was thinking the other day when Oliver talked about LD May helping him out all those years that it'd be nice to have an accomplice, only if you want to, of course. I want to. Splendidly. Jonah smiled, and we both looked out the window just in time to see Phyllis do the split. The wind chose that exact moment to make its way down Main Street, and this time the wind brought a creepy cold feeling along with it. At first I pushed the ice cream carton away from me because I figured the cold was delayed because of brain freeze. But then I learned the chime's soft, quiet jot in the ripples of the autumn air. I hated that sound. Jonah sat up straight at exactly that moment, and I was about to ask him if he heard it too. If he felt as bone-chilled as I did. But Jonah looked out the window and smiled. Right on time, he said as he pushed away from the table. Pick up the blue book, Felicity, said Jonah. There's somebody I want you to meet. The wind had faded out by the time Jonah led me down Main Street. I thought about Miss Divinity Lawson's words. Every place has a story, she'd said. So I imagined how Main Street looked 100 years ago when the Brothers Threadbare played there. Miss Lawson said that the music was so wonderful, so loud and wild and strange, that the trees caught the songs and wouldn't turn them loose. People could always hear the music, she'd said. Even when the Brothers Threadbare were out of town, I thought about people dancing down that very same street I was walking down. Maybe the street looked different then, maybe people dressed different back then, but I'll bet their hearts sang out, yes, 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 then when they danced up the dust of this road. Nobody was dancing here now, nobody except Elvis Phillips, and I was fairly certain that's not the sort of dancing Miss Lawson had in mind. Elvis stopped howling long enough to say hello to Jonah when we passed by. Next, we both said hello to Ponder Waller. She was busy sweeping the sidewalk around her storefront. A polka dot apron singed tight around her waist, made from scratch, ready to rise. Bring your mama and sister back and let me feed y'all, she reminded me, and I promised I would. The door to her shop was propped open with an old book. Smells of sugar and caramel apples drifted into the street, enveloping us in a warm haze of pure delight. Hello. My sister just walked in. I think this episode is long enough, so I'll stop here. And we'll start again next episode. Goodbye.